Okay, back and ready to go through with a little bit of a rundown. Thought I'd give you one more shot at a Klingon bird of prey trying to take fire at the Enterprise and all that. So, and there's the Enterprise. Like it says, I don't have a real big area where I can clear everything out and film these models, so sorry about that, but I'll try to do the best I can. Here's a little better close-up shot of the bird of prey and all that with all their weapons going. And my Enterprise, a lot of my effects you can pick out a little bit. I do have the registry lit up. It's very faint because I got an overhead light on, so I can go into more depth. You'll see I use the Aztec decals on the ship. For the strongbacks, what I did was order the Polar Lights supplemental decal set with the different registries and stuff, the different strongbacks. The strongbacks that come with the model in the box are the blue, like the 1701A. Now I did order the strongbacks from HDA Model Works, and the gray ones I just didn't go for it too much. And I've seen a couple different videos, especially if you go to the movie The Search for Spock, when they're stealing the Enterprise and they're flying out of the space dock or whatever it is. Right when just before they go out the door, you can tell that the strongbacks are green, have a lot of green in them. It's a real good shot that shows the green in them. So, but I did use the greenish gray ones. I'll try to get a little closer, and you can kind of see them there. And the ones that came with the supplemental decals, I mean, I think they're spot on as far as the colors and stuff. But that's the way I chose to do it. Not so much what you see on screen, but the way I see her in pictures, the way she was really painted, the colors with the strongbacks and everything, and all that. So for the time being, I'm going to turn all these lights out, and we're going to take a little rundown. Maybe if I turn this on, I know that won't help too much, but you can kind of see you can kind of see the green in there and all that, and the same with up there on the dorsal, on the neck. But anyway, yeah, like I said, I used the Aztec decals that came with the kit. Actually, I used the ones from the supplemental package rather than the kit ones because they were a little bit darker printed, so they did show up on there. For the base color on the model, I just used the Tamiya pearl white and all that, and that for the front of the nacelles and the tail fin and the nacelles and all that, I went with I kind of mixed my own color just looking at different pictures. It's like a bluish gray. Certain ways the light hits it, it shows up blue. Other times it shows up a little bit more grayish blue. So I'm happy with that result and everything. Those whatever those vents are or whatever on the front sides there, I just painted those a copper, and then I kind of weathered them with some black pastel chalk and everything. My side grills on there, the outer ones, I used a gunmetal testers, gunmetal actually in the small testers bottle, and I lightened it up a little bit, throw some white in there to lighten it up a little bit more. It's more like a steel gunmetal, you know, a lighter gunmetal, rather than just a straight gunmetal. It was a little bit too dark, almost too black. So I'm happy with the way that turned out. And my inside chiller grills, the ones that light up with when it's in warp and all that, those what I did with those is I painted them completely flat black. Well, you'll see when it's lit up the effect, but I got completely flat black, and then I sprayed a real light coat of purple. I'm a machinist, so I know what the layout dye is, and from what I read, they were almost a bluish purple color on the studio model. They were aluminum fins that they made, and then they used the layout dye on them, which comes out like a dark blue, almost a purple color. So I painted them flat black, and I used some purple grape. I think it was transparent purple, actually, and I sprayed over them, and they got that real deep blackish purple look to them when they're turned off. And what I did, I made myself up a special little tool to fit in those real small grooves, and one long sweep through them, and I was able to scrape the paint out of them so that the light would come through like it's supposed to be lit in those small grooves, and not vice versa, where the larger diameter grooves are lit and the small ones are off and stuff. But when you turn it on, it gives you the effect like just the opposite and stuff. So that's my model. The base I just made out of some 1x3. I made a base, and what I did on the top of the base, the first layer underneath all this, where you see all the white Star Trek and that little white outline border. First thing I did was I laid down a piece of white plexiglass, and it's opaque where light can come through. And on top of that, where you see all the Star Trek lettering and all that cut out, that's actually a piece of 1/4-inch plywood, hobby plywood, and I cut it out with my scroll saw to give it the design with the white outline and then the Star Trek in the center. And then on top of that, to keep it so it's smooth and everything, and kind of gives a little reflection of the underside with the strobe flashing on the belly and stuff, that's just a piece of clear plexiglass on top of it and stuff. And then I just put a wood border on it to hold everything in and everything. My circuit board for my flashers and strobes, my navigation lights and strobes, it's all mounted in my switches here. I just basically, this is just a basic wiring, no fancy boards from Tenant Controls or nothing like that. I just did my own circuit board for my navs and strobes. I just use toggle switches for the different, lighting sequence and stuff. And I work more on a budget. You can do the model. Once you turn it on, it's going to be staying on. You're not going to be always going through a fancy sequence with a circuit board. So I just prefer, I prefer building models. I don't believe in sinking all my money into one model and everything. My deflector dish, you can kind of tell it's got like a milky white color, like I'm trying to think of the word, like a frosted color. I actually used $3.99 a can at Walmart. That's a spray can. It's called Frosted Glass. And then I masked off those little ribs on there and painted them a flat white and everything. But that is frosted. I put several coats on it from the inside, not the outside. And on the outside, I just sprayed some Tester's dull coat on it to take the sheen away. But on the inside, it's where the frosting's done. And as you'll see, that's what gave me my light effect. And I know it's going to be a little bit brighter on camera because it kind of tends to wash out. But in person, it's a real nice shade of amber. Not real bright like a flashlight, just the right effect. And the blue is the same thing. It's like a powder blue with the little dot in the center and everything. So I'm happy with the way that came out. I used photo etch on here. I did detail up the shuttle bay and all that. And main reason I used the photo etch was because of that deflector dish, that outer ring that goes around there got a lot of detail, and it's really hard to paint that piece of clear plastic and keep that detail without getting the little nooks and crannies all cluttered up with paint and stuff. So, but we're gonna go through and just give you a little rundown the way I lit her and stuff. These first two switches I got, it just lights up if you want to just have the static model without anything turned on. It just lights up the model from the underside all the way around and it gives it a nice effect and everything. You can see it kind of shows off there in that. And then the second switch I got, if you look down, I got those lit up in blue. And it's going to probably show up white. We'll see if we turn it off if you'll be able to tell. But those are lit up in blue and all that. And that casts a little bit different effect on the underside of it and everything. And all that. But that's what I did with my base. I wanted something a little bit different, something to kind of highlight it a little bit when it's just sitting on the shelf, not doing anything and stuff. So I'm pretty happy with the way that turned out. So I'm going to turn those off. And the way I got my switches run now my first switch I have down here, that one just turns on all the ship lights and all that. So just gives you your ship lights, nothing else, no navs, no floodlights or anything like that. The side windows on the bridge, I used some 1/4 inch. I had some 1/4 inch plexiglass, or It was not, maybe 3/16. I don't know, whatever you buy. I buy it at Menards. Like you use it to repair windows and stuff. Whatever it was, and then I sanded down the edges smooth so the light would pass through. And you know, those windows should be lit, but you shouldn't see the light coming through like hot spots and everything. So I wanted to make sure that those two side bridge windows were lit and everything. I got the windows back there, and then when the ship lights come on, we're going to get this part of it over with. Excuse me for a second while I maneuver this around. We did detail up the shuttle bay. I did that Raytheon lighting effect on the shuttle bay floor and all. I got the photo etch in there. I got a few red lights up in there. Right up in the foreground toward that right side corner, I got one of the little worker bees. I did some fiber optics on the front of it, going into the side of the shuttle bay, so that like the headlights turned on and stuff. I got some other shuttles. I didn't do a whole bunch of lighting on the other shuttles. I did cut out the side holes, like where the worker bees are parked, like they dock inside of there, and that and it lets some light pass through, so it looks like there's some more interior to the ship, like behind the scenes and stuff. I did photo etch on the windows on both sides. I got a couple little red lights in there. Not red LEDs. What I did was the clear plastic. I just went over it with some clear red to give it a little bit of red effect. Sometimes you see like there might be some red lights flashing, like caution, there might be moving equipment or something. In the foreground, I got one of the shuttles done up on top of on a piece of piano wire built in, like it's coming in for landing, or if you flip it around, it's coming out of the shuttle bay. I got those. I think those are tractor beams on the sides. I got those lit up, and I masked them off. That was a real tedious little masking job on those. And I just gave them a real light coat of clear blue, and that way the white LEDs that are on the sides of the shuttle bay help to light those up like they should be and stuff. So I'm pretty happy with the way that came out. Now we're going to leave her this way for a little bit, maybe. And when I turn on the next switch I got down on the panel, that's for my floodlights, kind of like what they came on in the movie and stuff. I got the nacelles done. I did the Raytheon effect in there. I kind of just did an oval with some masking tape, cut out some ovals about the size of the decals, and masked that off from the inside. And then once I got everything light blocked, I pulled the masking tape off. And what I did to kind of make it muted a little bit, where it wasn't like a definite outline, in that I took some sandpaper and kind of feathered the edges of the light blocking paint to kind of make it look like the white was kind of, you know, spread in, and it wasn't like a condensed in one area like an outline and stuff. And you know, I think that turned out pretty well. The only thing that I'm not happy about, you know, the plastic, it kind of gives it a different color white than the regular ship lights and everything. But to me, it's close enough. I mean, it's not going to be filmed for a movie, so it gets the point across, and it represents what the studio model looked like. And then up along the sides of the nacelles, I got those little lights that kind of bleed back along the outer grills and everything, and all that. And now my next switch down on my panel, that one's going to turn on my nav lights, my strobes, my navigation lights. I'm gonna do a little bit back here yet, and then we'll flip her back around and get a side shot of her and stuff. But I got the two strobes on the back. The light on top usually wasn't flashing, so I don't have that flashing. I do have the light on underneath the fantail, and I did manage to clean off the paint from the front of it, how it kind of shines toward the belly of the ship, down that little curved area. There's my strobe down on the belly, all that. And then when I turn on my navs and strobes, the red lights up above the shuttle bay, those turn on too. Give it a quick on and off there. Those turn on too. I use the same light that lights up the top light up there, lights up those. And I did tint those windows. No, those windows are clear. I did use the red LED in those, and I got it light blocked real heavy, so that way those they do light up red, and when they're off, they're just clear. It doesn't they're not painted red or anything. My mistake. So, but anyway, I'm happy with the way that turned out. I'm gonna get the ship turned back around the other way so we can get a little bit better shot of some of the stuff. Now, as far as my circuit board, I don't know if I mentioned it before. I do have my circuit board for my navs and strobes mounted inside this little box on the front of the base with all my switches, so that way if something ever goes wrong with it, I can just take the 4 screws off of this, take that cover off, and change the circuit board out. I made myself an extra one or two just in case something ever did happen to it, so it's pretty easy to get to. I don't put any kind of circuit boards in the model at all. So you can see there I got my side little 12 light effect going on up the front of the pylons, inner and outer. I got the one coming up there to the neck, and it pretty much lights up underneath there. Oh, I'm at a loss for words tonight. Bear with me, guys. The impulse engines, how it should. The front over here on the cells, I do have the 2 lights. You might not be able to pick it up, but the one does get the back of the saucer. Doesn't bleed over the top or the bottom. I do have the other one that kind of catches the pendant area there. It's not going to show up because I do have overhead lights, so that way the model is better visible to be viewed and everything. Too many of my neighbors, when they look at my video, the original one I did, they say, "That's nice, all we see is little white dots all over and we can't see the model." So I wanted to do this in regular lighting and stuff with some overhead lights, so some of the effects might not show up. I may do a video later on in the evening and just let some outdoor light come into the room and wait till it's a little darker and you'll see more of those floodlights and stuff. I do have the registry on top. You can barely make it out, but the registry, it is lit with that little V. On the underside, I do have my cloverleaf effect. I got 2 LEDs I did in the back. I got one on each side and one in the front, and I angled them up so they kind of like, you know, they follow the contour of the saucer real nice, and I got that real nice cloverleaf effect and everything. And my next switch I got on my board, that's for all my thrusters. You got the thrusters all around the saucer, and then you got the 4 thrusters that go around the front of the deflector housing, and I got the ones back here on the fins on the back and the nacelles and everything. Those I used regular amber LEDs for those and everything, so I'm happy with the way those turned out. And you can kind of see the base a little bit. You will see the reflection of the strobe down there on the bottom. That's one thing nice about, like I said, I did the clear plexiglass and everything. And then my next switch I got hooked up. Now this is just a toggle. I don't have the ramp up and ramp down feature. Because like I said, I'll turn it on, I'll leave it one mode or the other. It's just to show off. It's not something I'm going to be sitting around playing with, going through all the startup sequence and stuff like in the movie. So I'm happy with the way it turned out and everything. And it still gets the same point across, but when I flip the switch to this toggle, I got it wired up 2 ways. When I flip the switch to the down position, it lights up my deflector dish, the amber. And come on top, it will light up that crystal amber. And then it lights up the thrusters in the back with the red and everything. And I got the photo etch screens on those that kind of highlight the center. And you got a little bit of hot spot, but it's more due to the fact that the photo etch has a little bit thinner area like dots on them and stuff. I didn't do a whole lot of detailing as far as the officer's lounge or the rec deck back there on the other side. I got some detail, you know, the camera's probably going to wash it out. And I do have this arboretum detailed up. It's more visible with your eye than anything and stuff. It's kind of floods out too much with the camera. And I use my cell phone. You know, I'm sorry for the quality of the videos, you know, if it bothers some of you guys, but I'm not into all that fancy high-tech stuff. I do have a good HD camera, like SLR style camera, but the less work I have to do at filming and the more I can have fun building models, the better it is to me. But anyway, that's what that's where my that's my whatever, just cruise mode, I guess you would call it, when it's just, you know, in the impulse mode and stuff. And when I flip that switch up, it'll go from the amber to the blue. You can see I kind of got my nice effect there. You can kind of tell on the edges it's not a real bright blue. It shows off the fins real nice and everything. You can see that ring in there, that photo etch ring, the detail that it gives you on that deflector dish. And then when I flip that switch, it goes, the impulse crystal goes to blue. Those two little crystals on top of the nacelles light up the blue. And my warp nacelles light up the blue. And when they're off, they look like they're, you know, a real dark blackish or a purplish black or something. And I got the back of them, you know, done off, you know, where the light don't come through that back portion of it, like it showed on a studio model and stuff, and all. And overall, I'm very happy with the way it came out. You know, like I said, this is for you guys that want to do like just a basic lighting and not use all the fancy bells and whistles and stuff. There's nothing wrong with it. There's no rule that says you have to go all out on this because it's the Enterprise. It's what you can afford or what you want to build. And me, I mean, I can afford to do all the bells and whistles, but if I can make my own circuit boards and save myself a couple dollars here and there, and they still give the same effect, and I'll be happy with that. We'll go back to the impulse mode or whatever you want to call it, and then like I said, everything. You know what I mean? Switching on and off. I mean, it doesn't do the slow dim or the, you know, the warp ramp up and ramp down real slowly like that. But to me, it's good enough. And then lastly, my last switch, I just lit up the torpedo banks up there, the two torpedoes. I just lit them up with some rectangular red LEDs that fit, and they're perfect. I mean, I forgot what size the LEDs. I get my LEDs at Lighthouse LEDs, but they're rectangular LEDs, and they fit inside those little nooks real nice. They're like the perfect size, and they're just constant on or constant off. You know, nothing fancy. It's kind of the same with my Klingon ship. There's nothing fancy other than the engines in the back are the flickering LEDs. See if we can't get a little bit of a view of them from up above. You can see them kind of flickering in there a little bit. But anyway, that's how I built my Enterprise. As far as the finish on it, I used a satin finish, and it still allows the pearl white to show to give the pearly effect. And on the strong backs, the fronts of the nacelles, a couple different areas up there on the bridge, different areas. I did go over that with a flat coat, because the strong backs they don't have the gloss. If you look at the ship in the movie, everything's kind of a little bit of a sheen, but when you get to those different, they call them engineering colors, sections of the ship, they're more of a flat, you know, a dull finish and stuff, so they don't really have a sheen to them. And the same with the front of the pylons and stuff, and that's those side vents and everything. The same on the inner pylons and all that. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the way the decals turned out, the Aztec decals. I'm a little bit older, so that going through and masking all that up with the paint mask, you know, the ships look really nice. I highly commend you guys that go out and do the pearlescent paints and stuff. But when you start getting a little bit older, the fingers and the eyes just don't have it no more, you know. But overall, I'm pretty happy with my Enterprise model. I think it came out really nice. If you do know, in the kit, there's all those little raised areas in different areas. Some places I did use the decals, and there I believe I used them where they're supposed to be. Up on here along the inside, there's like little black and red dots. So they might mean something, they might be wording or something, but they're just little black and red dots to me. And what I did with those was I just took a little a toothpick tip and just dabbed it in the paint and put the little dots along there where they're supposed to be, and all that. So all in all, I'm real happy with the way the ship turned out, and all that. I hope you guys like it. I had a lot of fun building it. Overall, it took me probably close to a year on and off. There was a time when I first got it, I got the secondary hull done up. I got the pylons on it. I got everything wired up, and I set it off to the side, take a little break from it because it gets a little bit tedious and a lot of work, and you need to get away from things so you don't start making mistakes. It might have sat for a few weeks, and then I got it back out, start working on a saucer. And the last thing I worked on was the warp nacelles, because there's a lot of LEDs and all that, and they're crammed into a pretty tight area and stuff. And as far as my LEDs, what I did, since most of the time you're standing up, you're not really looking at it from below, you're looking at it from above. I mounted my I just used white LED tape. I used blue. I'm sorry, I used blue LED tape. And I mounted them on the top portion so they're shining downward, and that way you don't see no hot spots or anything. So I didn't have to do any kind of like light diffusing or anything. I didn't spray any kind of dull coat on the warp nacelles, the chiller grills. They're just the clear plastic from behind. But I mounted the LEDs up along the top edge, so that way they're shining down, but they're throwing off enough light in there to light that all up. And then everything else is light black, so none of the other lights that are in there for the strobes or the thruster lights or anything, nothing else interferes with them. So all in all, I'm real happy with the model, the way it turned out. I don't have a turntable big enough to move this around on, so we're not going to spin around. The other side pretty much looks the same, just from the opposite direction, all that. You know, and I got my, I do have the little bit of that light effect going on. Like I said, a lot of stuff's going to be hard to pick out because I'm trying to use room light and stuff to show everything off a little bit more, but I got all that stuff going on there. And I'll probably come back later on or sometime later this week and do another video just in the evening, and it might just be like a beauty video with some music playing and just enjoy the model. I know one thing, when I built this and I got pretty much close to being done with her, buttoning everything up and all that, and the first time I lit her up, I just sat back in my chair, and I remember the first time I saw the movie when it came out back in '79. I was just like, wow, that's one beautiful ship. Well, when I came to the point lighting this up, before I even had the base finished up for it and stuff, I sat back in the chair, and it was like totally amazing. It's like it popped off the screen and ended up in my living room. I was totally amazed. I was probably more in awe that I actually built it. Everything worked. I didn't have any major problems go wrong with the lights or anything like that. And you know, it might not be the most perfect model, but in my book, she represents the Enterprise Refit the way I remember her from the first time I saw the movie and all the movies from Star Trek afterwards. And I'm very happy with her. Something that I'll cherish the rest of my life as long as she lasts. She's been going about 3 years now. You know, I don't light her every day. Sometimes I might light her on a weekend and let her sit for a few hours, you know, and go. But you know, the LEDs have been holding up pretty well. I haven't had no issues with anything going out and stuff, and I haven't had no issues with anything sagging as far as the pylons. Now, if you notice, I do have the ship kind of tilted. The front end tilted up a little bit. That's not nothing wrong. It's not lean or nothing. I just, when I mounted my pole into my base, I drilled a hole a little bit at an angle. I thought it'd add a little bit more interest rather than just have the ship kind of hovering straight. It's putting it up on an angle like that. I think it gives a little bit more realism, like it's actually, you know, maybe flying off into deep space somewhere and stuff. That's just my opinion and my liking how I did it and stuff. One thing I will add, that is the original mounting position if you use the kit supplied base. Since there's a lot of weight right here hanging off of there, you're pretty much talking the weight it is, the pylons plus the saucer, the neck. Since there's so much weight, I smeared liberal tube cement, testers in the orange tube. I smeared it around in there. I put the parts together. I put that on the secondary hull, and then I took it back off when the glue, you know, when it was still tacky. I took it back off, smeared some more in there, and I slapped it back on. So that plastic is almost melted at a point where it's one continuous piece. You know, we're, you know, hoping no matter how much it gets moved or maybe swung around or bumped or something, it's not going to separate. As far as the front deflector housing, I just used some canopy glue, and you might see a little bit of a seam there. I didn't do no seam filling on there. I got that. If I ever need to, that's where all my wires kind of terminate and go down into the base and all that. That's where I got my connections, my you know, my wires tied in from all the different areas. That's like the main junction point. I can always pop that off if I need to get into a wire, if something should go bad or something. And I do have the wires that are in there. I still got little tags on them from when I was wiring everything up as far as what's what. So that is going to pop off. So that's why I didn't do no seam filler on there. And in behind there, I used a black RTV silicone, like, you know, your gasket making silicone, and that kind of keeps the light from popping through that seam. And then the same thing I did on the warp nacelles when I attached them to the pylons. I filled those in with some black silicone before I glued them on, and that way I didn't have to worry about getting there and doing any kind of light blocking, because even though these pylons mount pretty solid, and there's like 3 or 4 big pins that hold the nacelles onto them, I just didn't want a chance of taking and busting the seams, because I did a lot of putty work around this area and stuff. Not real bad like a lot of guys are doing. I pretty much got my seams to close up pretty well by doing those modifications and stuff. I did do the modification as far as the bridge, raising up and moving it forward and stuff. And you can see a little bit more there, different angles where I got my registry with the lights on it and stuff. And we're gonna turn those off real quick here. And some of them I forgot to light block like those, but when you turn them off, they still look like they're lights, but they don't highlight anything. So I'm not too displeased with that. Like I said, I'm happy with the overall model. I think it's great. I didn't know I had it in me to do this much. I mean, I've been building models all my life, but this was a really big undertaking and stuff, and I just wanted to come out and look halfway decent and not be embarrassed to show it off to anybody and stuff. So hope you guys all enjoyed this. I know I enjoyed building it. It took a while. I believe there's you know, if you count the LED tape,